Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Tech Tuesday, presented by Delta Media Group, where we are pretty sure that if Peter Pan were to fly to a random house in Neverland and decide to stay, he would go for a job like an acrobat or join a circus or something, or maybe go to the Olympics, right? As opposed to becoming a lawyer. So, today we are going to go into the DeltaNET. We're going to take a look at the customer list functionality. Customer list is something that we've had in there for a while that a lot of you have been utilizing thus far. One of the nice things it can do is you can bring up kind of a CRM, like a call list. So you can go in, you can pull up a list of customers and kind of open those all in bulk and then perform bulk activities. So send them all an email, group them all together, or just contact each one and hit a next button to move on to the next customer and go through each one. We've made some updates to that functionality that kind of allows customer list to work faster and better and makes it a little bit more clear how some pieces work. So let's go in and take a look at it. So to get to it, we're going to go down here to Customers and then Customer List. And the first thing you'll notice is that the page loaded up much faster than it used to. So that is our biggest update to this part of the system. Beyond that, the filters work much the same, so we managed to get it to load faster and retain a lot of its initial functionality. So if we run through these filters, we can see we have an activity drop-down, which is all about when the customer last made a request or when they were last on your website. And you can see we've got last activity, when they last actually made a request, when they were last logged in. So you can see all the options you have there. The next one is we have the filter for customer info. So this is things like name, email address, phone number. And keep in mind that you can get really specific with these. So I could say, or even really general, depending on how you look at it. So I could say, for example, I want to find a contact that has a spouse name that ends with some certain characters or that contains certain characters. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in how it is you can query these different fields. Now as we scroll down here a bit, you can see we also have an option to bring up contacts by birthday. And what's particularly cool in here is you can bring them up based on whether or not they have a market watch and or a saved search attached to them. So the nice thing here is you could go in and say, I want to see every customer in my database that does not have a market watch. So I could bring up that list, and then I could open those in bulk, and I could go through them one at a time and add a market watch to each one. Same thing, same deal with saved searches. So we'll scroll back up here. Now the next thing in line is groups and labels, which is exactly what it sounds like. If I want to bring up all of the customers in a specific group or in multiple groups, or all the customers that have a certain label attached to them, I can just click on these fields, and you can see I can actually go through here and multi-select my groups. And this will also work as a kind of an auto-completer, so as I type here, it'll narrow down my list to just matches. Of course, I typed in a term that's going to match just about every group name. But that is how that works. So you can go in, you can select the groups or labels that you want to bring back customers in this list for. If we go over to requests, you can see some request-based information. So the way the system breaks it down is when a customer comes onto your website and they ask for a showing on a property, for example, that's going to create their account if this is the first ever request they've made. So the request is that they've asked for a showing, and then it will also create their lead account. If they come back later on and ask for a showing on a different property, or ask for information on a different property, or ask for a market watch to be set up, each of those things will be individual requests that they'll all attach to that specific lead account. So this thing will let you narrow down the leads that are in here based on the kind of request that they've made. So I can say request type. So if I want to see just everyone who's made a showing request, I can select showing and I can filter it that way. And then I can also go by sources. So initial source would be when they made their very first request, where were they, or where did they make that request from? And you can see the options in here, things like agent website, company website. And then even if we've parsed in leads from third parties, or if you have Zillow Tech Connect set up, for example, if we go down here, you can see there are fields for Zillow. So those Zillow Group ZTC and Trulia ZTC would be the Zillow Tech Connect sources. So if you wanted to see only leads that came from those sources when they made their first request, you could use this field to narrow things down that way. So we'll scroll back up here. Now you can also look at any source. So instead of just looking at their very first request, this will look at every request they've ever made. And if they have any request that came from the source you have selected in here, then they could return in this list. And then request platform is kind of a overarching filter that's kind of on a larger scale. So just stuff from the company or stuff from the agent site. So there we go. So the next thing we can do is we can look at viewed, and this one can be particularly cool. This one will allow you to narrow down customers based on the properties that they've looked at. So if you wanted to see only properties that have gone on your website and viewed listings, or only customers that have gone on your website and viewed listings within a certain zip code or a certain city, you can narrow this down however you'd like, and you can return just that list. That can be really handy for targeting things when you don't necessarily have like a saved search for a customer. So maybe you haven't had a lot of contact with them, but they've been on your website doing a lot of searching. You could go in here and you could say, well, I could tell based on their search history that they're interested in listings in 44709. So I'll type in the zip code 44709, which is the zip code around here, and then hit search, and I'll get back all the customers that have been viewed any properties in that zip code. So the next thing we can do is under assignment here, if you are in a team account or if you're a team leader and you've delegated any leads out to any other team members, you can actually pull up all the leads that you've delegated out here. So that can be particularly handy, but it's a little specific in that it's specific mostly to team accounts. But under delegated to, I can select those that I have delegated leads to and see only those leads I've delegated to them. Or I can check this box to exclude delegated leads, and then I'll see only the ones that are assigned to me and not those that have been delegated out. And then next, under filter tools, I can see a summary of all the filters I've selected so far. I can also name this filter and save it. So if I've set all of these filters up to things that I use pretty frequently, I can save this filter set so that next time, instead of going through and selecting each item, I'll just go here under filter tools. I'll select one of my save filters and then hit this search button here, and I'll automatically get back all the customers that match those filters. And it just saves me a little bit of time. It's especially useful if I'm using this as kind of a prospecting tool, where I'm going to go in here, select my list of customers, say just those that have had activity in the last 30 days, and bring up that list, and then go in and bulk open them and start calling them and kind of cycling through them that way. So it's all meant to be a time saver. And now the next thing we have here is one of the new pieces of functionality that we've added to this page. This allows you to actually select what columns will appear in this list. So by default, you can see we've got first name, last name, email, date created. And as I scroll down, there are a few other things we have selected here that you can see show on this list. What I can do is if I want to add a column to this list, I can just go in here and select it, and you can see as I make selections, it automatically updates my list down here. So now I have those additional columns, and if it expands beyond the width of my browser, just like the other kind of data tables that we have set up in here, you can hit this little plus over here to expand the additional fields. But this allows you to see exactly the data that you want to see in this report. And it should maintain those particular column selections when you export the report also. So if I went up here to export customer list, that is a functionality that we already had. If you click on this export customer list, it should retain the columns that I've added to my list here. Now, once I have selected the columns I want, if I'm going to commonly use those, or I know that those are the columns that I'm always interested in seeing, I can go down here and hit Save Table Layout, and then it will save that layout. So every time I come back to my customer list and start pulling up customers, it will already have the columns selected that I typically want to see selected there. So there you go. So the last thing you can do on this page, or at least not the last thing you can initiate from this page, but the last thing I can do right here is I have an advanced search under these binoculars here in the top right. So if I click on that, I won't get into this in too much depth, but know that it opens up what amounts to kind of a query builder. The cool thing about this is this allows me to do things like ands and ors and really mingle together a very specific search. Like I could say, let's say I was creating customer groups based on the type of property that each customer is interested in. So maybe I have a 55 and over group, and I have a 44709 group, and I have like a 3-bedroom or more group. And I'll have customers that are in different combinations of those groups, because I might have somebody that's interested in 44709, but only 55 and over properties. Using this, I can say, show me a customer that is in both of those groups, but not in the third group, or any combination of that. So that's kind of the beauty of these ands and ors. Groups is just an example, but if I click here, you can see there's a lot of different criteria you can use that way, and it can all be things like, I can look at initial source. I can say initial source was not, and then select all of the initial sources that I don't want to look at here. And then I can add an additional rule, and it'll look at that, and it will look at whatever is here. So, like I said, I won't get too deep into it, but know that you can create very complex searches here. And if you have any questions about how this works or any issue with the advanced search, feel free to give us a call and we can walk you through it. The biggest thing is it gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to returning your prospecting lists. All right, so I'll reload this page here because I've been fiddling around with it a lot. So there we go. So now that my list is reloaded, once you have your list all filtered down the way you want, the next thing you can do here is you have the ability to go in and multi-select customers and do different activities with them. So you can see we have next to all of our customers this checkbox here. So I can check customers individually, or I can hit the checkbox up here at the top, and we've clarified this selection a bit. So now when I check that, I can say show me or select only the customers on the current page that I'm looking at, or I can select all. Select all is going to select everybody in the results set. So right now on this page there are 25 entries because I'm showing 25 entries per page. So if I say just this page, it's just going to select these 25. If I say all, then it's going to select the entire set of 151. So just know that that's how that works, because sometimes you may just want to select the page you're on. And in this case I'll do that. So we'll say select only this page. So now those are selected. I'm going to click on Open Selected Customers. There we go. And now it's opened up my bulk view for these customers. So from here, I'm looking at that customer's profile page, and if I scroll down, typically you'll be on a bigger monitor more than likely, so you'll be able to see a little more than I can. Scroll down a little bit. So you can see their contact information here, and this is their entire profile page. So if I wanted to add a saved search, if I wanted to set up a market watch or add a transaction, all that information is here because this is their whole profile page. The idea here is that I can go to this page, scroll down, look at their contact information. If I have a phone number, I can give them a call. I can click on add a note, leave a note for this customer, and then go up here and hit next. And if this lead had been processed, I'd be on to the next one. There we go. So we'll go on to the next one, do the same thing, find their contact information, contact them, do whatever kind of maintenance to their account I want to do, hit next, and then I can just run through all my customers that way. Now in addition to that, I can go in here and I can say send communication. So I can actually kick off an e-card, an email blast, or set up a mail merge from here. I can attach them to a specific list. I can add them into a group. So if I have all of my existing customer groups, I can add them to an existing group, or I can create a new group from here, give that group a name, hit create group, and that'll add them all to that group. Or I can also bulk add and remove labels to them. You can see we've got the pipeline stages marked off over here also as kind of a separate item. So it's very easy for me to, in bulk, add or remove customers from pipeline phases. Now generally, once you're using Pipeline Manager, you'll be going in and one at a time adding a customer to a pipeline phase or removing them from it as they move through the sales pipeline. But when you first set it up, you may have a group of 100 customers that you want to set as prospects all together. So you'll go in here and select prospect and hit add labels, and that will make all of the customers in this set prospects. And they'll show up in your customer list, well, your pipeline manager as such. So so the whole idea is any kind of bulk customer functionality, this system is set to handle that. So there we go. Now the next thing I can do, and actually kind of the last thing here, something I skipped over on the other page, we'll go back over to customer lists. Once you have your list all set up and filtered with all the options over here, if you wanted to kind of additionally narrow it down to a specific customer, we do have a search box over here also. So I can go here and I can just type in a name, and you can see it automatically filters the list below down to just a match for that one. So it's another quick way that you can get in and just find a specific customer very quickly. So it's nice that in addition to pulling up your list, say all based on certain criteria, if you want to just find somebody quick, you can just type their name in there and bring it up. So there you go. That is customer list with our new additions to it. As always, thanks a lot for joining me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about customer list or anything else in the platform, feel free to send us an email at support@deltagroup.com or give us a call and we will walk you through it. So thanks a lot for joining me, and I will see you again next week.